Hey everyone, welcome back to Two Rivers Tabac Book Club. I'm your host Andrew, and I'm joined by my co-host Jash.
Why, hello there.
Hello. All right, today we're starting with a new book. We're talking about Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Fairly recent book. I think it came out last year, 2022.
Yep, 2022.
Yeah, so we're really excited to talk about this. Obviously, we just got done with The Dark Tower, and obviously, it spanned many decades of Stephen King's life, but it ended, in the early 2000s. So now we're kind of getting a book from very modern Stephen King, only a year ago. So it should be fun to kind of analyze this one. We went through chapters 1 through 8 for this one. Just as a disclaimer that we say in every video, there are spoilers in this. So we encourage you to, read the book and read the portions that we read before listening to this. And then we also tend to just focus on the things that we think are interesting. If there's something we missed and you want us to talk about it, feel free to let us know and we'd be happy to kind of talk about it in the next video, but we tend to focus on what we think was interesting. So, let's get into it. Fairy Tale.
Hmm.
Very
So,
generic kind of title, Fairy
yeah,
Tale. And people I've talked to who've read this, that's kind of like they almost like say it the same way. They say it's just like, it's a short, great book. It's almost like the title kind of fits it. I don't know when we finish the book if we're gonna feel the same way, but
yeah.
yeah.
I've I've been getting a lot of vibes from of this book. It reminds me of his book Wind Through the Keyhole, the
Yes.
4.5 in the Dark Tower.
Yep.
Now, it only reminds me of the portion, the middle of the book where Roland tells the gang the story, the fairy tale of the Wind Through the Keyhole. And I'm getting a lot of vibes of that story in this one, mostly because of how it's written. Because after reading stuff like Pet Cemetery or or like The Shining, where he like really gets deep into like the psychology of characters and like and their personalities and stuff, I don't feel like he's going that hard in this book compared to those books. Like it seems pretty tame, and I don't know if that's because the main character is kind of a I don't want to say so far he's not a boring character. It's more like he's such a straight edge character that that's so unlike Stephen King, or at least in what we've read, because I know he's come out with like The Body, or for you guys who don't know, Stand By Me, uh, or so because the only other books I've read with him who have like teenagers or kids or something was Jake from The Dark Tower. Everyone else is older, so I don't know if this is just how he normally writes teenagers, but from my point of view, it's almost that's why it kind of reminds me of a fairy tale, is because you get like the semi straight edge kid who going through the motions. He's a good guy, done some bad stuff in the past, but he's mostly just kind of there doing stuff right now. I don't know. How do you feel about our main character so far?
I very much echo exactly what you're saying. That's actually something I wrote about in here, but in the notes here. But yeah, he's very straight edge, which in most Stephen King writing, mostly most protagonists have some kind of even not even just the protagonist, but characters in the story. They have like they have a rough edge to them where they're not always like so good. And not only is this guy, like always choosing the right decision. Like I know at the end of this section he kind of gets mad at Howard for like 2 seconds, but other than that, like he hasn't really done anything adversive, right? And on top of that, this guy's like a gigachad. Like
Right?
he's 6'4", plays football, plays baseball, lettered in both varsity and as a sophomore. And even
Yeah.
they repeat it several times, but like he punches in the winning touchdown in the Turkey Bowl. So it
Right.
very
A
much
Turkey
feels like a
Bowl.
fairy tale for sure. It's like the Turkey Bowl, and you feel like you're in this suburb of I think they're in Chicago, right? Like Chicago, like the suburban area kind of, and it's like very tame and everything. And it definitely feels exactly, yeah, like a fairy tale. Like you have these little like wrinkles where it's not like he listens to heavy metal and stuff like that, but overall, like he's just a Chad who's also really smart. Like it's almost like there's nothing he's not good at. Like he's great at sports. He's really smart, seemingly attractive. He's tall. He has a fondness for animals. He cares about Howard, who's an asshole and is old. Um, so I almost like the fairy tale title is very fitting because like if it wasn't called fairy tale, it's almost like this guy's not even very like realistic, you know? Because like if you think of like the
Dude,
most,
yeah.
you think of the fucking normal gigachad, you know, 6'4", chiseled. He doesn't give a shit about old guys. You know, he doesn't give a shit about Howard.
Uh,
Yeah,
no.
he wouldn't. He
No, he's out
wouldn't.
there fucking.
No, yeah, exactly. No, he wouldn't be quitting football and baseball to come hang out with this guy. Like, no. So
No way.
obviously, it's definitely kind of a fairy tale. I agree with you. I'm interested to see if his character kind of, like you said, he's not necessarily boring, but if we could have a little bit more, roughness, I think it would help, for
Yeah.
sure. But
I. Oh, sorry, I don't want to
no, no,
interrupt you.
no. Go ahead. That's all I had.
I was gonna say the only reason I believe that this character is more realistic than he should be is because of the tragedy that happened to him as a kid
Right,
with
right.
his mom
Hmm.
dying and with his dad having the drinking problem and then eventually turning it around. But it's like kids who go through such stuff like that mature a lot faster. You know, kids who go through trauma mature quicker because they have to. So I think a lot of his maturity comes from those tragedies, which is the only reason that makes this character realistic. Because if he didn't have these tragedies, then there's no way this kid's. I mean, yeah. I'm assuming there. I mean, yeah, there has to be kids out there like this, but the odds of a 6'4", I mind you, like maybe if he was
Star
like 5'9",
football player, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
If he was like 5'9", maybe I could believe it a little more. But we're talking like this guy 6. You know how fucking tall 6'4" is?
Yeah, and he said he's 220 too, so he's fucking built.
He's
I
he's
mean,
a
220. Yeah.
this is a big fucking kid. Like I have a friend here who's how tall is I think he's like 6'2". No, he's around this guy's height, like 6'3" ish. So I think this guy's taller than my friend here, but like I see how tall he is. And like I had to, look up to him like that's a big kid. So I'm like 6'4". Like on paper, you're like, oh, but it's like that's pretty tall. No, that's fucking huge. All right, 6'4" is big
Yeah.
motherfucker.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
220. I used to weigh 220. I mean down to like to the 180s, like 188 or 89, doesn't matter. But when I weighed 220, I was a bigger dude than I'm still big, but anyway, doesn't matter. All I'm saying is that this kid and what he does, the only way I can even believe he acts like this is because of the tragedies which made him have to mature quicker. So I think that's kind of why Stephen King started with the goddamn bridge.
The goddamn bridge. I love this
Goddamn
this
bridge.
audiobook narrator. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like how they got a young guy to
Yes, and
voice the young guy.
I was gonna bring that up too. It's like because a lot of these audiobook narrators are like old ass dudes, so it's kind of nice to have
Yeah.
like a younger voice for sure.
Right. It's only a little off for me when he does the old man
Yeah,
Howard,
right. Yeah,
because it's just a young guy doing the old man accent. So that kind of takes me out of it.
kind of
But
makes me laugh. Yeah.
yeah. But then again, I think that's like the way this book's even written is from him literally like talking to you.
Yeah,
What's his name? Charlie?
Charlie. Yep.
Yeah, so it's like Charlie Reed. So
Hmm.
like he starts off the book uh kind of like, I know you haven't read like Dracula, but it's kind of like back in, well, I guess those were written as letters to other people. this is just written as, a first person account of this is what happened to me. So it's almost like if he's telling the story by talking directly to you, which is interesting because I haven't read many Stephen King stuff in general, but from what I have read, like this is like the first time I've seen him do this approach, like this kind of writing style, especially since this writing style is so out of date that when I took like creative writing in college for as an elective, it was recommended that you don't even write your stories in first person anymore because it's so outdated that modern readers get turned off quickly by it.
That's interesting. That's interesting. That is a really good point though that he normally doesn't open in that way, like, having that long exposition telling us in a first person account how his mom died at the goddamn bridge.
A goddamn bridge.
Yeah. But that is a really good point. I didn't even notice that, I suppose, but honestly I didn't mind it being in a first person account, but yeah, it is definitely weird for Stephen King. He usually doesn't go that deep in that route. I thought it was interesting. So, like, just talking about, the beginning here with the mom dying in an accident where a car hits her on the bridge. Kind of similar to, the accident, right? In the 90s, I know we talked about in the Dark Tower, and he heavily uses that event in the Dark Tower, but kind of pulling again from his experience where, like, he almost died from getting hit by a car. In this case, the mom actually does die. And then kind of like just moving on a little bit here, like what you were talking about with the wind through the keyhole, um, having a similar opening. It kind of, I don't know if this is, once we read more Stephen King, maybe we'll know for sure. But it seems like a lot of these Stephen King books, especially like as the main character's growing up, there's some kind of drinking problem that's within the family. And in this case, it happens with the dad. Obviously, he kicks it eventually, but yeah, like you said, with 4.5, kind of a similar arc where there's another drinking problem. Of course, that stepfather or father figure is still an asshole, but
Yeah.
um, I almost wonder he's almost pulling from his experience again, where it's like, okay, the mom obviously he got hit by the car in the 90s, so you can kind of pull that experience. And then Stephen King used to be like a raging alcoholic, so I wonder if he just uses that theme because he's very aware of it. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, what also I learned in creative writing was that, write what you know, so it's
mhm.
like if you're if you're trying to write a story, let's say about a veteran or something, but you've never spoken to a veteran, you barely know anything about veterans or the military in general, then you're not going to write a very good story about a veteran. So
True.
it's like one of those things where, like, I think we're seeing a lot of repeated themes in Stephen King stories because he pulls from his own experiences. What is he good at writing about? What's on his mind? What's therapeutic about his writing? And like what is he trying to tell us, or how is he crafting characters? And so he takes like all the stuff in his head. So maybe like the Charlie, maybe that's like a representation like of his kids when they had to grow up with him being an alcoholic. And he's like, oh, what if, you know, I can take my stuff from being an alcoholic and write the dad like this. And what if my wife died, and I was still doing this? What would my kids do? How would they turn out? What would they think of me? Type of thing. So it's like, I don't know if this is how he's thinking. I'm just saying it it makes sense why a lot of these stories have the same themes just because he pulls it out from his own life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm sure he was probably thinking of the things that you're describing there when he's thinking about him being an alcoholic and how his kids were affected. And obviously he eventually kind of kicks it later on in life. So kind of similar to his dad where eventually he's able to get over it, but it's still a really significant time in Charlie's life, and obviously, supposedly, in his brain is a catalyst for taking care of Howard, right? Because he makes this deal with God and stuff, and he feels like he has to atone for that,
Yeah.
you know. So,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
which what do you think about his promise to God? It's like if you help me or if you help my father stop
Mm.
drinking, I'll do whatever you want.
I think it's pretty relatable to most people who grow up in Western society. I think most kids at some point experience some kind of trauma, or they're in some kind of difficult situation with parents, friends, whatever it is, and it can be traumatic or whatever it is, and they've tried to do that, right? When you grow up in, like, especially in the U.S. and like any kind of Western country, you know, that's going to come to your brain when you're trying to find answers, especially when you're a kid, not understanding things. You're trying to ask for something that's above you to like help. So I think it's relatable in the sense where I think most kids at some point have asked for that kind of a deal to help a situation that has been traumatic or is a horrible situation. Unless you grow up completely straight edge, which fuck you. So
Yeah, right. Good fucking luck.
but I think most kids don't weigh it that heavily. Even, let's say and of course, most of the time, those traumatic experiences they eventually pass. The difficult situation eventually pass. Not always, obviously. Some kids, they never get out of it, and that's horrible, obviously. But most kids, it passes. It's some phase in their life, and but I don't think most kids really take it that seriously. Where they're like, I need to do something in society to atone for what I asked for what I asked for that experience to pass. But obviously, Charlie in this book, he's really trying to with
Yeah.
Howard. But yeah, what did you kind of think of that exchange?
So so I found it very relatable because I had the same thing like after I uh finished college and got the DUI,
Right,
and I was like, great,
right.
now because I got the criminal justice degree, right? So I'm like, I can't do anything with this degree because I'm on probation. So literally, I'm on probation for 2 years. My life's ruined. No one's gonna want to hire me. So
Mm-hmm.
that's when because I growing up in the Midwest, went to church a lot, fell out of it, and then I was like, then I like did the same thing kind of Charlie did here, and I prayed and I was like, look, you get me out of this, and I'll start believing again, and I'll do what it takes to be a better person and
Yeah.
whatever. So you know, almost instantly felt better and everything got squared out. Only got 1 more month. Let's go on
One
probation,
more
1 month.
month.
So it's it's been 2 years since that day. So it's like so when I read this in this book, I'm like, wow, that literally happened to me not too long ago. But something similar, I guess.
Yeah.
Different circumstance, I guess. With Charlie's, it was his dad. It had nothing to do with really him fucking up,
Mm-hmm.
but but then with mine, it was like I fucked up. So it was that's for me. I found that very relatable. Uh,
Yeah.
and Charlie's not as good as a kid as you might think he is. Did you know he called in
Bomb
a
threat.
bomb threat
Yeah.
at a what was it, a middle school
And
or
he
elementary school?
smeared dog shit on a teacher's window or something.
Yeah, it's this is okay. So I didn't see the bomb threat coming, but as soon as Stephen King said the dog shit thing, I was like, either he had to have done that as a kid, or he had to have known
Knowing
kids do that as
someone.
a
Yeah,
kid.
because it's so
He had to know
specific.
somebody because well, then it's just like it's like let's say Stephen King's like in his what 80s now, right? Or is it late 70s?
Yeah,
So
so
he's
he's
just
pretty old. Yeah, somewhere in
yeah,
there. Yeah.
and he's writing about a kid who's growing up between well, I guess when we grew up, because this guy was born in 1996, so he's as old as my
Yes.
sister.
Right.
So uh so it's like he's like, oh, what do those kids be doing in 2009? He like
It's
and he hasn't mentioned Shrek once.
Yeah, come
Yes.
on, that's a and
Like, come on.
SpongeBob, that's a
That's a
defining
little
moment.
like, come on. This kid is so straight edge. You're telling me like he didn't watch the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy? I mean, come on.
There are
Like,
some moments in this book where it's like, okay, I know Stephen King's, attempting to write a young kid, but like nobody says that. No, like when he says like everything's on the net, it's like no one
yeah,
says that. Nobody
yeah,
says that,
nobody
man.
says that. If we were, it would be so sarcastic.
Yes, it
And
would be
we'd be
really ironic. Yeah, like
yeah,
we would not be saying, but I appreciate the attempt,
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I think because Stephen King is one of the best writers ever.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
um, so you can definitely tell he's trying. He's really trying to make this kid seem relatable. But
Yes.
I think there is like a because he is so old that he is a little bit out of touch with how young teenagers think. Uh, not saying that a kid like this couldn't be real, because I definitely think it could, especially with the trauma happening. But there's just some things. There's some times when it's being written, I'm just like, I don't. It
It's
doesn't really
not. Yeah.
feel. It doesn't really feel like a teenager to me. But
Yes.
then again, that this is again where I say the first point of view, the first person point of view saves this character, is for me at least, is because the book starts off with him as an adult, and he's writing from his perspective as his adult self about what happened to him as a teenager.
Right.
Therefore it works for me. That's what saves the character for me, because if he was a teenager still writing this and talk, like I said at the beginning, it's like he's telling you the story to your face. So if he was still a teenager, I would be like, yeah, this is not a fucking teenager. But since he's an adult writing about this experience that happened to him as a teenager, makes it so much more believable, uh, that it literally, in my opinion, so far, chapters 1 through 8 saves it for me, because I don't think I'd be able to take it that seriously otherwise.
I'm definitely in the same boat as you, where it's sometimes it's hard to take seriously, and I'm hoping that there's more depth to this character, to the protagonist, as we get further along here, because and obviously we talk about how the protagonist needs to change in some way, usually in novels, by the end of the book, and it's like this guy's like perfect, man. Like, what does he even need to change, But I guess we'll kind of see as it goes on. But it reminds me when we're talking about how they say like, oh, I'm gonna go on the net, and like shit that we would never say as a but
Yeah.
it reminds me of like I can't remember if it was at the end of the Wizard and Glass for Dark Tower when he was writing about young Roland with Susan, and I remember I think at the end of
Susan
it,
Delgado.
yeah, and at the end of it, they had like an interview with him or something like that, or he wrote like an author's note or something, and he talked about how he struggled to write. He struggled a little bit to write that romantic interest, between the two, because it had been so long since he'd been that age. He can remember obviously the memories of how he felt when he was that age, but it's not the same as being closer to that age. You know what I mean? And I remember him
Yeah.
saying like, "Oh, I was around this younger kid a lot while I was writing this book, so it helped me to remember how those kids would think at that age." So he could write it a little bit more. But you can tell now, especially now, because he's like you said, I mean, he's in the 70s, 80s. It's much harder to write um, a kid that's this
Yeah.
young when you've been so far removed, which is why I appreciate like we're saying here, I appreciate the attempt, and I like the angle of like this is an older Charlie telling his story when he was a teenager. Um, so
And comparing it to Wizard and Glass is actually pretty cool, because it's like, so like you said, like in Wizard and Glass, I feel like might have been easier to write Roland's character than it is Charlie's, just because Roland already has that maturity backstory because he's a gunslinger. So
Yeah, exactly.
he has to act like an adult. So he's like, he can write the adult Roland as a kid, but since he's a kid, he has teenage feelings. So it's like, I'm not saying writing this is easy at all. I'm just saying compared to writing Roland versus Charlie, uh, Roland as a teenager was already more mature than anyone his age. So it's basically like you have an adult who has teenage emotions. Writing Charlie is like writing, like he is mature, but he's not like but he's not like super mature like an adult. Not in the same sense as Roland.
Yeah, no, that's a really
Because
good point. Yeah.
Roland has a lot more responsibility than Charlie. Charlie basically just has a responsibility to himself to not only atone for the stuff he feels bad for, but is also needs to atone to God because he believes God helped save his father,
Hmm.
and so he's repaying his debt. So he has those responsibilities, but compared to Roland's like, we're about to, Gilead's about to go to war, millions are gonna die, the world is ending. Like,
Yeah, and he's been like shooting a gun since he was like fucking 5 or whatever, and like
yeah,
he
it's like
dueled his mentor and like all this stuff. Yeah.
it's like compare that to me and my buddy smeared shit on our least favorite teacher's car, and I'm just like, bro, Charlie,
Yes.
you have it easy. At least you didn't kill your mom. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. No,
Uh,
that's a really good point where yeah, it's easier to write Roland because he's already really mature. He went through a lot of shit already and was trained to be an adult from the time he was a child. So.
I wonder if we need to put spoilers or something in the video for other
Yeah, we
books,
might need to do that on the next one. Yeah, talk about like we're gonna be talking about other Stephen King stuff too.
or maybe just wait till the end to have like,
Yeah, or wait till the end. Yeah,
yeah,
we'll figure
maybe
that
in the
out.
title. Yeah, I guess in the title of this one we should just put the spoilers, just
Yeah,
so there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We'll
yeah.
continue.
I'll put like Dark Tower
So,
spoiler. But yeah, so I was waiting with bated breath for a penis reference.
oh yeah, I couldn't
And
wait.
I was like, I was wondering how this Stephen King is going to compare to early 2000s Stephen King, 1970s Stephen King, whatever, 80s, 90s. And we didn't get one for a while, but then, okay, like, and I don't remember this super well, so like, correct me. I put a note
I
here.
remember.
Okay, okay, good. So like when he goes into Howard's house, like initially, and he's like scared, and he talks about like his balls going up into his his body or whatever. So I'm pretty sure that was the first reference. But then, like later on, when he starts to, have a relationship with Radar and shit, he's like, "Oh yeah, I love this dog." He's like, "Not in a sexual way though, not in a way where I'd fuck her." But
Oh, I don't remember that
okay,
part.
there was something like that where he was like, there was some line where he was like taking it at a sexual angle, and he was like, "No, like not like that. I just love the dog." I'm like, "Yeah, you don't." It was just a very Stephen King moment. I was like, you don't have to mention that you're not gonna fuck the dog. Like I
It's like we
assumed you're
get
not
it.
gonna fuck the dog, but I mean, you know.
It's like it's like the only time I now I think he's gonna fuck the dog.
I know. That's what it made me feel like. I was like, oh, is this what's gonna be like? What's fucking weird about Charlie? Like he's a weirdo who like wants who like
He
throughout
needs
this whole book
something.
wants to fuck this dog and.
Is that why it's called fairy tale? Because he's chasing that
that,
mythical
that myth, yeah,
tail.
that
The,
animal tail.
the dog. Jesus Christ.
It's never been mentioned again since that one part, but yeah, it
But yeah,
sent me a little bit. It was hilarious. So.
I will say that that when he described, like, he's like, oh, my balls like scrunched up and all that stuff when Radar scared him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My first thing was I'm like, huh, for the first like private part thing mentioned in this book so far by Stephen King, that is very mild
Very
compared
mild.
very mild
Very.
compared to
Yeah.
what we're used to. Like I'm used to this sort of shit. Like saw its prick.
I'm gonna fuck Jake
meant to
until he
meant
dies type
it was
shit.
curved. It
Like,
was curved like a scimitar.
yeah.
Meant to fuck her while
Like,
she died.
yeah.
like I've gone from like that to oh my balls went up because I was scared. I'm like, wow, 2022 Stephen King is fucking calm the fuck down.
You know, we don't know though. We don't know. You know,
That's
you never
true.
fucking know.
We still
Well,
haven't even got to the fairy tale part of the story.
I
So
know, which is obviously we're probably gonna talk about that, but yeah, like I'm very interested to see when the other shoe's gonna drop and we start like going to some crazy shit. You know what I mean? Because it's
yeah,
like and it was and I loved when we like okay, it's all fairly normal, right? Okay, Charlie's a gigachad. Okay, his dad has a drinking problem, whatever. Howard's this old annoying ass like dickhead. We've seen this before in movies, right? We've seen this shit.
yeah,
Like the
it's the
old
old man
ass guy.
trope.
Yeah, the old ass guy. He's a dick, but then like he becomes friends with in this case, a Chad. And then, but then when it's like he has all this gold and
Hmm.
it's not money, right? It's not like money. It's not like it's just straight up gold. And that was like, oh shit, okay, we're like almost going like down like a pirate fucking like angle here or something. It's like it really lends to the fairy tale theme. I'm like, this is sick. I'm like, where is this
Well,
gonna go from? And it's hilarious because I read Treasure Island by Robert Stevenson or whatever his name is, and it's a pirate book. And when they brought up the gold, I was like, oh my god, this is like really similar to Treasure Island. It's just Stephen King's version right now. Um, and then they mention it in the book. They're like, oh yeah, like the Charlie's like, yeah, I remember like reading Treasure Island and like everything that's happening right now is like reminding me of Treasure Island. Like I'm the fucking pirate guy, and I'm like, I have to deal with I think it's Blackbeard in the story or whatever, but yeah, it got me really excited. But
I
yeah,
haven't
what
read
did you
that,
think?
so that'd be neat.
Yeah, we'll have to
So
read it for
the
book club. It's a really good book, but
fuck yeah,
yeah.
I'm down. Like so when he said the gold, when he saw the gold, uh, so the first thing that popped into my head was, holy shit, that's illegal as fuck. Because so I don't know if you knew this. So in 1933, President Franklin D. Roosevelt uh, signed I think it was signed the Gold Reserve Act of
Hmm.
19. Oh, so I guess it's the Gold Reserve Act of 1934, but the confiscations of gold occurred in the United States in 1933 during his presidency. So at the time, they made it illegal to hoard to physically own the gold bricks and stuff. So they started the U.S. government, the Federal Reserve, started taking the gold from everybody to put it in the Federal Reserve and just use the paper money and such. So
Oh, okay.
that's
Interesting.
so that's yeah. So like I know you can buy like gold coins and like some plates and stuff now, but there was no like you can't hoard a bunch of gold bricks and shit. So that's so when I saw that this guy had all this gold, I was like, oh my god, how does he pay taxes like and all this stuff like how that so that was like my first thought of how does he transfer this gold into cash because there's no way he can do it legally
Right.
and
Yeah.
without being caught by the government
Oh yeah.
for
No, the
for
banks will
something.
would absolutely like flag
Oh
that.
yeah. So and then we got our answer. It's just a creepy German guy. Which so now I'm starting to dig like the name fairy tale. Like, you got your straight edge protagonist. He has a little bit of a flaw, just like Jack and the Beanstalk, which was also mentioned in this book.
Yeah. True.
Jack, pretty straight edge guy, but has a little stupid in him, or sells a fucking or cow for some magic beans. But and Charlie, he's a straight edge guy, but he did a few bad things in the past, and he can get angry, so he's not like a perfect person, even though he seems like it. Uh, so like as a fairy tale goes, and then you get a creepy German guy, like it's pretty much
The theme.
fitting the name. Yeah, the theme of
Absolutely.
the name.
And
So
I love this angle of like this dude has a shit ton of gold. We don't know where it's from. There's this weird, potentially secret society that this German guy's a part of, and obviously, we're setting up for the other shoe to drop. But I love the angle that we're kind of going down right now. I'm
yeah.
excited.
Oh, let me give another history lesson because I just found this out. I just looked it up.
Okay, yeah.
Uh, so from 1933 to 1974, it was illegal for U.S. citizens to own gold in the form of gold bullion,
Okay,
which I don't really know what that is. I'm assuming
yeah.
it's the bricks, without a special license. But on January 1st, 1975, the restrictions were lifted and gold can now be freely held in the US without any licensing or restrictions of any kind. So I think you can still like you can own gold because like I said, people were buying it, or
It
you
would
can buy it now.
Yeah. It would still be weird though, like you said, if
Yeah,
you were going to exchange all that gold and then have a shit ton of cash and just try to put that in a bank, they would flag you. They'd be like, "Where'd you get this?" Especially
yeah,
not having any kind of employment on record and stuff. They'd think you're like a drug dealer. So,
right. Well, then it's like I don't know about you, but do you know any more gold mines that are really
no. Poppin'.
active,
Yeah.
popping, like, especially in what was it, 2016, 2014? What year?
Yeah, it's fairly
Is he
recent. So, yeah, like the whole gold rush thing, that's like non-existent.
yeah.
Um, So yeah, I
So,
mean, it's very weird to have that much gold, you know.
yeah, so obviously I feel like it's gonna come from the seller,
Yeah, right.
uh,
They're definitely he's foreshadowing it.
or the
Yeah.
shed, not
Or
the
yeah, the
seller.
shed. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're right, the
shed,
shed.
sorry. So they said the shed made like a squealing, like it
Yeah,
was
the
like a
weird
squid said.
alien noise. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you've read Dark Tower, I think it's pretty obvious what it is.
Oh yeah.
A thinny.
Oh yeah. Good point. Good point. I
Yeah.
didn't even make that connection. Point.
Yeah. He thought it was an animal or something. He's like he
Oh
banged on it at them, and
yeah.
nope, nope, that's a
That
thinny.
is a thinny. Good point.
So
It's gonna
that's
take him to some weird fucking thing.
is that a Dark Tower reference?
Well, they reference the poem in this book too.
I loved
I
that.
know.
I
He
fucking loved
references
it.
so much stuff. Fucking Treasure Island, this poem, Jack and the Beanstalk. Yeah, tons of stuff. That's cool.
And uh what made it crazy about this Dark Tower reference, when Charlie came across the poem, and it literally came out of nowhere for me, and he's just like, huh, so guy, like he's talking about Jack and the Beanstalk, and he's like, guy or whatever, he's like, oh, that comes from, I did more research and found it came from Child Roland in the Dark Tower. And then
Hmm.
I was like at work and I was like almost about to tear up. I'm just like, oh dude. I'm like, cause he finished Dark Tower in 2004. So
Yeah.
we know Roland's still on his journey, right? Like,
Yep.
and so when I heard this reference, and I'm just like, oh, so 2004, now it was this book came out in 2022, and it's like, oh, he's is did he go another round? Like where is he?
Yeah. Good
Oh
point.
my god.
Yeah, I loved that reference. It was cool. Makes me excited to read all the books, and we'll like pick up on the references. But yeah.
Right. What'd you think of the old man archetype? Like do you feel like Stephen King made this old man unique compared to other old man stereotypes, or do you feel like it's just your generic old grumpy butt fuck?
I don't think it's like that, revolutionary or anything. I think it's cool that he has this big secret and he has all this gold. And it's like, where did you get all the gold? And then on top of that, obviously the German guy, getting offed. So it's like, I don't feel like the character of the, grandpa is like that revolutionary, but like the secret of like it being gold. I don't know why, but and of course obviously like the Charlie talks about it too, where it's like almost like pirate greed, right? Like the gold. And to me, it gives me the same feeling where it's like, why the fuck is there all this gold? Let's find out. And it's very fitting for the fairy tale thing. But I do really like that he focuses on the having a dog in this too. Obviously, in Dark Tower they have
Oi.
Oi, yeah, and like it's kind of nice to have it is of course called fairy tale, so it's kind of fitting to have like an older dog here who's like his companion and stuff as well. That's been a lot of fun. So
Mhm.
yeah, what do you
I
or good? What do you think
will
about
say
Howard?
I think about Howard. Uh, I I think so now that Stephen King's an old man, he he can write the old men pretty good.
Yes.
Uh, I prefer like so far from all of I've read from him, the old man I like the best is from Pet Cemetery, like Judge. Fucking amazing character. Love that fucking character. So I think that old man I like better than Howard, but
Mhm.
uh I just Howard's a little like I like him, don't get me wrong, but he's to me he's very generic.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh and nothing to be honest, nothing really separates him from like other old men
Yeah, and
characters to
movies and
me.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like the gold thing is interesting and all that, but you know, obviously if like you looked up any synopsis or anything about fairy tale before reading it, which I did, it's kind of like okay, so this is what the story is going to be. So I'm kind of just waiting for him to die. Kind of is like I hate to say it, but like I like the character. I think he fits well in the story Stephen King's trying to write. But I'm gonna be honest, and he's a little flat for me. I like him, but he's not like my favorite old man character. But I think for this book, he's good. I really like him. He's just not my favorite.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Like, especially when you said, "Oh, he's gonna die from a heart attack." I'm like, okay, I'm ready for him to die. Because like once he dies, that's when we're gonna start on this crescendo, right? Of
Yeah.
like figuring out why the gold is there, like going on the adventure. Why is he gonna
And
have to, have the gun? Conceivably, Radar's gonna be with him for part of the journey because she's gonna outlive Howard. So like, yeah, I'm excited for that stuff. For
and
sure, way more than like Howard being alive. I don't really, but he does write the kind of the relationship with like Howard to, and obviously Stephen King's old, so he can probably write this better. But like like Howard not wanting to change any, like he's stuck in his ways and stuff like that, and like the way he kind of talks to uh Charlie feels like fairly realistic as well. And I think it's just because Stephen King can write from that perspective a little better, but.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've I've had bosses and worked like with old people, old dudes before. So this guy is like I think he's written pretty well, like pretty accurate to like some old school dudes who are pretty private, and that's you know what do you think about Stephen King's trope about like his own trope where it's like the suspense is coming from it was my summer was going good and then until he died. Like,
Right.
he does it all the time and
He
in a bunch
does.
of other stuff we read. Like having in Dark Tower a lot in Dark Tower. Having uh I don't think it happened in Pet Cemetery. I can't remember. But anyway, what do you still think about the trope? Do you think like this him using it in this book compared to other books? Do you think that this this was necessary? Do you think it it helped with gather suspense and you wanting to continue reading, or did it make you be like, oh great, spoiled, whatever? Like
I,
what'd you feel?
yeah, I liked it in this book just because, like you said, I'm not that interested in the Howard arc. You know, I understand why it's needed to be there to introduce this gold thing and like figure out why the gold is there and shit. But and you know, to introduce Radar, which I feel like Radar is gonna be like in the book a lot more. But yeah, I think it's good in this book because it helps to keep me engaged, right? Because I'm like, okay, he's mentioning this specific thing because it's going to be, you know, it's going to signal the next part of the book, right? Like when Howard dies, I imagine it's going to signal the next part of the book. And obviously, when he's wielding the gun, that's going to signal another part of the book because he mentions, you know, that he doesn't like guns, and but he's eventually going to have to carry it. So that's going to signal another part of the book. So I kind of like it in this book because it keeps me engaged. I think it's kind of hit or miss for me, depending on what story it is and how it's used, if I like it or not. But for this, I like it to help keep me like kind of engaged and aware of when we're gonna transition. But what's your thoughts on that kind of
Yeah.
use?
I agree with you. In this book, it was good because just knowing Stephen King, you have an old man and an old dog. They're both dead by the end of the book, guaranteed,
For sure.
hundred
Yeah,
percent. And
absolutely.
especially if Charlie's writing this as an adult, and he's already talking about the dog like being old even before they
Mhm. Mhm.
gave her those new pills or whatever that would help her arthritis, and
Yeah.
they're like, "We give her two good months left." So it's like you know going in that the dog and the old man are probably going to die. So I think it was fine. I honestly wanted to keep reading, but
Yeah.
I held
I
back
feel
because
you.
I'm like I got 2 days. I can wait.
I feel
Uh,
you.
but all right, so I'm gonna give a Dark Tower spoiler for all 0 of you listening. You got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All
Wait,
right,
I
I'm
need
not
more
gonna feel
time.
bad. Blah, blah. I'm not gonna feel bad now. So, like Susan Delgado's death and Wizard
Mhm.
and Glass, it was like uh Stephen King wrote. It was just like, and then but that was like Shimi or whatever, and he's like, that's the last. Like Shimi's like, I'll meet up with you later or whatever. It's like that was, but he never did because
Right.
Susan Delgado died or something. Like he wrote it in there, so it's like he knew what was gonna happen next. And I feel like like yeah, it kept me interested and wanted me to keep reading, but I think I would have rather not had it
Mhm.
and have it be more of a shock upon the death because you assume she's going to die at some point because all of Roland's companions die. But in but in but you don't know when or how. So you don't know if she traveled with them longer or what. Like you don't know. So I feel like using it there wasn't that good of an idea. But in this book, I feel like it was perfect to keep me interested because this whole time you know they're gonna die at some point and probably soon. So when he says it, you're like, oh, so it's happening soon. And like you said, that's when the next pivotal point is gonna happen.
Yeah, and I echo what you said there about, you know, Susan Delgado. I remember us discussing that too, and I wasn't a huge fan of it either then. But yeah, I think in this story it fits a little more. I do think it's interesting how he mentions, you know, obviously Howard has the messed up knee, and he has prostate cancer, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. But then he mentions, you know, that those aren't the things that kill him. What actually is going to kill him is a heart attack.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
what was funny is, well, maybe not funny, but earlier when he called Charlie and he's like, we need to have a serious talk, like in the hospital, and his roommate was watching the baseball game,
Yeah.
and and Howard was talking about his roommate, and he was like, yeah, he has a ticker problem. Good thing I don't have to worry about something like that. And so
Right.
that was just something I caught on the reread of
Little
the 8
foreshadowing.
chapters.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, and what are the odds? It's like okay, another Dark Tower spoiler. 3, 2, 1. All right. So it's like when Shimi died, and it's like, oh, he's gonna die by the teleporting thing, but then he just steps on a piece of fucking
Yeah.
glass. It's the
God
same.
damn it.
It's the same thing.
Well, it's
Well, except this was actually you could actually say was foreshadowed,
right. Yes. Yeah.
unlike Shimi's.
Unlike Shimi's, where it's just like, yeah, that was ridiculous,
Fucking
but
stupid.
yeah, that was really dumb. But I'm interested though because like I feel like it's significant mentioning that he's gonna die from a heart attack rather than these other ailments because it's like, well, heart attacks you could die from like shock, right? Shock could give you a heart attack, or like straining yourself could give you a heart attack. So I almost wonder now, obviously with the weird German guy, what happens to him? It's like, okay, maybe they're gonna come to his house. Maybe there's gonna be some kind of event, some kind of you know whatever's gonna happen to cause that heart attack. And of course, I say all that, and probably what's gonna happen, he's just gonna wake up. This motherfucker's gonna be dead. But but I'm interested to see.
Yeah.
I'm just like you said, I'm ready to kind of keep reading and really get into it.
Yeah, it's about the journey, not the destination.
Right, yeah.
Is that a Dark Tower reference?
Yeah, anytime I hear that now I'm gonna think of the damn Dark Tower.
Dude, I swear to God, it's like
Well,
all I hear daily is Dark Tower references
yeah,
now.
I know.
I started doing Wheel of Time references. Like I in the morning, like I'll see my brother-in-law, and I'll just be fucking around. And I'll just be like, "You are the dirt beneath my boot.
Yeah.
You are you are the frog in a pond." It's so funny
It
because
is really good.
he's like, "Is that a Dark Tower reference?" I'm like, "No, Robert Jordan."
Even better.
Even better, dude. Okay, think about that. Charlie goes through the thinny, right?
Okay.
Teleports to the new land with the
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah. Goes with
His
the dog.
journey, he runs into none other than Randall fucking Flagg.
I feel like we could definitely have that for fucking sure, right? Like definitely.
Like,
Maybe
I
Randall
don't,
Flagg killed a German guy. Like I don't fucking
right?
know. I'm curious, like with the dog. So like, I guess I'm just making a prediction now, but like I'm curious with the dog. The dog is so old, like it's getting to a point where it can barely even like get up the step. Radar can barely get up the step. So I'm wondering, like when they go through the thinning, they go to this other universe. Radar's gonna somehow like be more. I don't know. I just
Monster or
monstrous, or like maybe just a different version of Radar where she's like more able to like be a dog, because I'm almost like I feel like she's gonna be in this story definitely longer than Howard. Obviously, I don't think she's gonna survive throughout the whole story. But it's like I wonder what's gonna happen when they go to the fairy tale world. What
yeah,
she's gonna be like there. So I'm curious.
yeah. I think there's only I got two predictions, and they're both polar opposite, basically. One prediction is that since the German guy got basically robbed and killed, right? And they said
Hmm.
they think they found the subject. I mean, not the subject, the suspect. And but Charlie doesn't think so. He thinks this seems all planned out, like he was the fall guy. And then Howard's telling him, "You're paranoid. Don't worry about it." Uh, so what I think is like Howard's gonna die, and then the main people are gonna track the gold back to his house, and uh, while Charlie's there with the dog with Radar, the robbery is gonna happen, and the robber is gonna run into the shed, and
Hmm.
Radar's gonna
Hmm.
chase him, and then if the portal opens or something, it's gonna suck him in, or Charlie's just gonna have to run into the shed for Radar, and that's how they're gonna end up in the other world, or or before Howard dies, he's gonna tell him what's in the shed, and then they're gonna need some money, so that he's good. So Charlie's gonna have to go get some gold, and so Radar is gonna be like, Radar knows the way, show him, girl. And so this is gonna be like her last kind of voyage, her last hurrah or whatever.
Yeah, and like
Is
the other world, right?
yeah, so Charlie's gonna like buy the property with the gold or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because it's a fairy tale, so but well, grim fairy tales are pretty grim, but this is just fairy tale, and so
So
Stephen
far,
King
it's pretty
doesn't.
much straight fairy tale. Yeah.
Yeah, Stephen King doesn't always write super sad endings and or
Mhm.
fucked up endings. I mean, the wind through the keyhole at the very end of the fairy tale. That guy had I mean, it was a shitty beginning for him, but he ended up all right in the end.
Yeah, it's a fairly good
Uh,
ending by Stephen King standards.
yeah, and the body. I have the book. It's not that big, but I haven't read it yet. But I've seen the movie Stand by Me, so it's like
Hmm.
that's not a sad ending.
Hmm.
So, I mean, with all considering, so it's like or Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah,
I
true.
mean,
Yeah, that's not that. Yeah, ending's not that bad.
yeah. So I feel like this is going to be one of those kind of books. Like I don't think it's going to be real horror or thriller. I think it's going to be suspense for sure, but I don't think there's going to be any Stephen King horror cuz like I think it's going to be like those other books I mentioned where it's just suspense to keep you interested, and it's just going to be a fairy tale
Yeah, I
with a few
mean,
F-bombs
right, with a few and smearing shit on Windows.
and some shit, yeah.
Yeah,
Bombs, bomb threats.
yeah, bomb threats. No, I mean, I'm interested. I'm totally digging the fairy tale angle, and especially like the Treasure Island feel to it, where like they're like the pirate gold shit. I don't know. I just find that really interesting because I don't know. I don't know. We just got off of Dark Tower. We're blending like 5,000 different genres. We're teleporting into different areas. We got,
Yeah.
fucking all these characters and shit. It's like, it's kind of nice to just like, let's just have a straight fairy tale and like have Stephen King write it and he can put his own flair in it. I'm having a great time, you know?
Yeah. It's a
So,
simple story. After going from 7 books of such a complicated, uh, story that especially, like, the ending has so many different ideas and thoughts that you could talk hours just discussing
yeah,
what the ending could possibly mean,
absolutely.
and all this stuff. There's so many things to it that it's kinda like it's not after the overwhelming part and you talk through it and go through everything, it's fun, but you also it's a little exhausting. So that's why I didn't really another reason I didn't want to go straight back into Wheel of Time. We needed some one-offs to kind of cool off.
Yes,
And
I agree.
this is perfect. There's only one more thing I want to discuss in there.
Yeah.
So when when Charlie was talking to his friend Andy Chen,
Oh my
who's
God, yeah.
obviously Asian,
Yeah.
uh, and Coach calls him the Yellow Peril, and
Yes.
I know you're half Filipino, and I was like, okay, so Stephen King over this white old dude is basically writing kind of like a little racist joke in there, which is
Yeah.
kind of funny. But I was thinking because I was like, if someone called you the Yellow Peril, would you be offended? I mean, obviously, I think it would depend on the context and the person, but
It's
like, what do you think? Is that
Dude, it's
like,
just like the shit smearing on the window. Like, how the hell would you even think of that? Where it's like, I feel like either Stephen King has had to have said that, or he's heard someone say that somewhere. Like, I've
right?
never heard anybody say anything like that. It's just so
Right.
funny.
I
Oh
mean,
my God.
at worst, like, because like I thought you were Mexican when I first met you, so it's like I don't know. It was I just like when you said that, I was just like, what? But the way they joked about it, I was like, "Okay, that makes sense." Like, I've done that
Yeah, it
with
wasn't
my
like
friends
super
and stuff.
serious or anything.
Yeah. Because my brother-in-law is also half
Yeah.
Filipino, and when I asked him, I told him about the yellow peril and was like, "So what do you think?" And he's joking around. He's like, "I am extremely offended." He's like, "You
Yeah.
bigot, you bigot." It's hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
But,
God.
yeah, because I was like
And then he had the
it's
audacity
hilarious.
too to be like, Andy Chen. He's really good at tennis. Oh, and he's also really good at basketball. It's like, oh, okay, all
Oh, okay.
right.
Is he good at chess too?
Yeah, right. Tennis, bro. Come on. Yeah,
Oh
but
god.
it was hilarious.
Yeah.
It was a nice
Is
like comic moment. God.
it's it almost just remind like I don't think he's forcing diversity in here. Uh I do think it's like natural, but I think it's like he's thinking what's something that like I can that's not like too offensive, but something that could be taken like that or just have like a fun little friend moment between because we don't really see Charlie with his friends that
Yeah,
much. Like
right.
he talks about it, but he's not really with them. So it's like
Hmm.
this is one of those times where we get to see him react with his
He's
peers,
like the most lonely 6'4" gigachad of all time. It's like this
right?
guy only has one friend. It's like
Right?
how does
It's like
this guy not know more
I
people?
I don't believe it because see
I know.
that's another thing because like I understand why I had a small friend group. Like I had like maybe eight of you guys probably around there. That's I wasn't a giga chad and I wasn't into sports and all that shit, so whatever. But like you knew if you knew everyone knew the sports people because they're so loud, obnoxious, and everywhere. But it's like if you're on a sports team and you're doing that, you're friends with like everybody. Like football, like we didn't even like we our graduating class was like 340ish people and and there was like 200 or there's like at least a third of our grade was in on the football team. And so most of them were friends with each other. So uh it's like you're telling me like this 6'4" giga chad on super good at two sports isn't constantly just either going to parties, meet talking to chicks, and then he talks about wanting to do High School Musical, and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, the only believable thing about the High School Musical thing is to be able to sing and kiss with the hot chick because
Hmm.
when you're 6'4" and a giga chad, dude, you don't give a fuck, dude.
Yeah,
Like, you don't give a
obviously.
fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, you do the play just to kiss a chick. You don't give a fuck. So it's like that I believe, but good thing he didn't say, "Man, I just love High School Musical." I'm like, dude, there. Okay, this is a fairy tale. I don't believe that for a fucking. I don't believe that for a goddamn minute.
Yeah, for a goddamn minute. Goddamn bridge.
So I feel like he just looked up stuff that came out between 2000 and 2014 for for
uh,
for for children or high schoolers, and then he just found a bunch of random shit.
yeah.
Because I'll tell you, no high schooler that at least I knew in the 2010s was looking up Jack and the Beanstalk.
And yeah, and reading like while playing two sports, reading like Treasure Island and all these classics that you
Yeah,
mentioned.
no,
It's like, no, this guy's not. And
no,
then like whenever he's in Howard's house, he's like constantly reading. It's like, nah, this dude
no.
is would not
Yeah.
be reading books. He'd be reading girls' numbers.
Right.
So
It's like, and if that the only Jack and the Beanstalk he'd be even reading or watching would be the porn parody. Like roll child. Oh god, that puts another meaning to child roll into the dark tower. Oh
Wow, God, it's
Jesus.
his favorite
Is
porno.
that a Stephen King reference?
Yeah, is that a reference to the Dark Tower?
Is that Dark Tower Stephen King reference?
Yeah, I
It's
mean, if this book was not named Fairy Tale, I don't think I could. Yeah, like this protagonist makes no sense, but like the book is called Fairy Tale, so it's acceptable, you know.
yeah.
And the
It's
trauma thing,
yeah.
the trauma thing
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, and maybe there were people like this in our school, and we just weren't friends with them, and that
I
would make a
think
lot of sense.
anybody who is like this would be the president, would become the president, or become fucking like I don't even know, like just the the leader of the free world.
Right. he's
Bro,
he's
6'4",
like
220, amazing at athletics, really smart, reads a shit ton, great at school. It's like, dude, this guy is God. Like,
flirting with nurses that just got out of
yeah,
college. You know how long nursing school is? This chick's like way the fuck older than I
yeah,
am.
and I mean, he kind of is a teenager sometimes because yeah, like you said, he like flirts, and then like the way the physical therapist looked is really hot. Like,
Yeah. And his dark tower was soaring when you saw her.
so he does have a little bit, and then like his dad mentions too, he's like, "Oh, I saw you talking to this girl on the way here," and it's like, yeah, every fucking woman would be talking to this dude.
Dude,
Why
right?
is he hanging out with this old ass guy? But yeah, it's
It's
it's a
like
it's a fairy tale, it's a
yeah.
book.
It's like I because we do get a sense of his like how much because he okay, so how am I trying to explain this? He has a good heart. He has a good heart because of the trauma he went through. So he was able to mature quicker and gain that kind of wisdom without like an emotional wisdom with the trauma. So he is able at an earlier age to be like this old man needs and this dog need me more than me playing baseball type of mentality that a lot of kids our age wouldn't have had then if they didn't go through anything to speed up their maturity. So because it comes like when your conscious when your conscience gets involved between what's right and wrong and you listen to that conscience, that to me is a sign of emotional maturity. So he was forced into that at an early age when other kids weren't. So that's why I can believe he chose to be with Howard and the dog at Radar instead of like playing baseball or going to parties and doing all that shit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
So
completely agree. I think adding in the trauma and stuff, it's needed to kind of, round out his character a little bit. But
just
yeah,
he's a lot better teenager than I was. I'll tell you what.
I mean, this dude's like a A-class citizen, man. God damn. He's gonna
Like
create the next like United Way or some shit. Like Jesus Christ. But
like
oh, yeah, go ahead.
it's like in if this was more reality, dude, this guy would not be 6'4". He would not be sexy, dude. He'd be just probably just average or
Yeah, like
fugly
like
looking.
5'8", like
Yeah, no,
maybe he
no way.
plays like maybe he does track.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me because it's like I'm like, do people not really realize how fucking tall 6'4" is?
Yeah, no, I mean it's
Like you're a
very tall.
goddamn giant.
Yeah, I mean
Like
it's yeah,
so,
football
like,
player height.
yeah, my friend who's like that tall says it's kind of hard to work out and like do little things because like when you're that tall, uh, it's harder on your body, you know.
Definitely. And things aren't like optimized for you, like size of beds and like shoes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I forgot how tall he really is because I think if Stephen King wanted to make him that tall, then he should have added more stuff in because I completely forgot. Like I was just thinking of just some regular 6 foot or like 5'11" dude, like
Right,
normal size dude. I
right.
wasn't thinking 7'4" because there's a lot. I'm assuming there's a lot that comes with being that tall. Like he never talks about like if he like walks in a room, he's never like and he like towered over all the nurse women and they like
Right, he doesn't like
you
make
know
it seem like he's that tall or anything, but
yeah. But I guess it is coming from a first person perspective of him telling a story, and I guess if he's not really embellishing a lot on himself too much. So that's why I think with the writing style I can forgive Stephen King for a lot of the stuff that I talk about
yeah,
that I've been talking about, but uh
yeah.
yeah.
He'll probably have like a small dick or something and
Yeah.
then
That's as big as a fairy's tail. Oh shit!
Damn, that's the
That
whole
now,
book.
now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. Is that a Is that a penis reference? Is that a Stephen King reference?
Yeah, I think so. I think
That,
so.
that is that a little tower? I mean Dark Tower reference. Anyway, all right, that's enough penis jokes. We're probably gonna get plenty of it
Oh,
in the
I'm
next
ready. So
book.
ready.
Okay. just the way you said that. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else?
Nope, I don't
you
really
wanna
have
talk
anything
about?
else. I think we read like the perfect amount right before we, have the other shoe drop. I feel like it's gonna start happening next chapter. So
Yeah,
cool. Well,
let's see how much you want to read for next time.
let's see. I don't know where I put my phone here. Chapter 9.
Chapter 9's about almost 40 minutes. The next two are closer to an hour, and another 40.
Let's see. We're at 5 hours. And then looks like when chapter 15 ends, it looks like it's 10 hours, 46 minutes. I guess we just do that. You want to go to 15? 8 to 15, or 9 to 15?
9:15. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yep, Yep. That's fairy tale.
That's
all right.
fairy tale. That's fairy's tale. That's tale fairy. That's fairy tale.
Is that a Stephen King reference?
Yeah.
Is that Dark Tower reference?
Yeah, it's a Dark Tower reference.
Roland, how many rounds have you completed yet? All right, doesn't matter. He's probably done. Hopefully.
He's dead.
Yeah, he's. I fucking hope, dude. Shit.
Yeah, it's better than what he's doing.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, 9 through what was it?
9
15.
through 15. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Sounds good.
Oh, please subscribe and give a like. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll see you. We'll see you next week. See you next week.
Smell you later, Red.
Bye.